Guests, I guess you could call them.
Yeah, there's some pretty important and interesting and controversial people in the city of Hamilton, which is known for a lot of things: the steel industry, the Ticats, Lincoln Alexander. But some would argue that two men who have achieved cult status among those who would like to see our marijuana laws changed.
Michael Baldessaro and Walter Tucker first came to prominence 40 years ago when they ran a hippie hangout at a former water-filled quarry in Puslinch called Clearwater Abbey. It was their nudist home until the 1980s when the government evicted them. Now, not long afterwards, they set up their Barton Street Cathedral of Pot, the Church of the Universe. Their so-called worship of the Tree of Life has now spelled the end of the church. This weekend, Baldessaro and Tucker will close the book on their church because it was seized by the Crown last year and sold as a forfeited asset.
Love them, hate them, laugh at them. I doubt this will be the last time we hear of brothers Tucker and Baldessaro. They join us here in studio. Michael, how will the Church of the Universe survive?
Just like the Christians did. You can't stop worshiping God the way you worship God, especially when it's justifiable.
Brother Walter, you two are simply no strangers to the courts. Is there any way that you can see overturning the rulings which have now forced you to leave the church behind?
Yes. I believe that from the very start, when way back in 1978, when I went before the Supreme Court of Canada before Mr. Justice Laskin, at that time, he said to me, I think this is one we ought not to discuss at this time. And the Supreme Court of Canada has turned their backs on us since that time. For almost 40 years, they've turned their backs on us and not been willing to adjudicate the fact that we use marijuana as a sacrament, that we believe it's the tree of life, and we are using it in our personal lives. Now, even when they've made a decision that marijuana is legal to use personally, they still persecute and torture the people that use marijuana, even if they use it only because it makes them feel good, because it gives them a relationship with maybe another human being that they would not be able to experience. What the government is making an effort to do is legislate our spirituality, our emotions, our compassion.
Okay.
That's something we don't believe that comes from Caesar, that comes from God.
Okay, fair enough. Michael, when this proceeds of crime law was passed, you must have known that you two were at risk of being targeted by the police.
Of course.
Oh, we've been targeted by the police since 1979.
Right, but more so since that law was passed, right?
No, actually, we're waiting for two cases in the Supreme Court now. When we were before the court on the forfeiture and the sentencing, we had no input at all given us legally from my then counsel, and we didn't even know they were going to seize the house. We were hoodwinked.
Brother Walter, now, is there any way that you can relocate the church, resurrect it in another location?
Oh, goodness, yes. The church has never disappeared. The church, they take the building, but
they don't take the church.
How can they take spirit? I think Tommy Douglas, who is, I think, one of the finest people I've ever met, what he said was, you can kill a man, you can jail a man, but you cannot control an idea. And the idea that all of the people in Canada who smoke a joint and who pass that joint to a friend or to a loved one is committing a criminal act is totally so ludicrous that the Supreme Court of Canada doesn't even have reasons. They can't give reasons for their draconian stupidity. I don't understand why they're doing this to the Canadian people when there is no need.
And that is something that you,
a pot smoker?
And that is something that you have, and that is something that you have been arguing for a while. You want explanations from the Supreme Court, correct? Are you going to challenge that? Are you somehow going to pressure the courts into giving you reasons as to why they will not deal with this?
Well, now that
let me show you
one at a time, okay?
A piece of paper that was printed, I believe this is Spectator, if I'm not mistaken, where the judge in the Supreme Court of Canada is saying that other judges must give reasons to other judges and to the public. They owe it to the public to give proper reasons for their sentencing. Now, we know, all of us know, that $70 worth of marijuana is not worth 3 years in jail. And that's what they're doing to us. It's just the stupidity of what's being done to us is so objectionable that even police officers have come up to me and said, we don't agree with what's happening to the church.
And you actually spent time in jail in the last year or so, correct?
Yes, a month and a half, or actually 17 days in Penetanguishene, and it was the best experience I ever had, because I found out how stupid our government is in mistreating the people that are behind bars.
That's why it was a good experience?
Yes.
Yes, of course, they're my brothers and sisters now. Every one of them that gets locked up because of marijuana is my brother and my sister, and I'm fighting on their behalf and on the behalf of people who have not been arrested and have not been thrown in jail, because it's right in their future if things keep going the way they're going. So we will continue to fight back and to deny the government the right to control our spirituality.
Michael, this has been going on for, I think you said 40 years now.
Yeah.
Are you surprised that we're in 2009 and we are still talking about legalization of personal use of marijuana?
Oh, yeah. I never thought I'd spend my whole life. I have a licensed operating engineer. I run cranes and stuff. I never thought I'd spend most of my life, because I smoked a joint once, but fighting something. And I never thought that I couldn't get an answer out of our highest court. The Ontario courts have ruled in 1984. I went in before Judge Borkovich. Reverend Tucker was my counsel. He allowed that. And the judge said marijuana is not a defense. Freedom of religion is not a defense to trafficking marijuana. And I went to jail for 7 weeks. And in 1996, I went before Judge Borkovich again, and we agreed there was no defense because of that. 96, they sent me to jail for a year in the Court of Appeal. I thought maybe then the Supreme Court would hear us, but what they say is application for leave denied, no reasons given. Now, when my father, a 90-year-old father, came to me and he said, justify your smoking and your religion, I did. And he said, that's a good excuse. And that's all we're asking the Supreme Court to do, is to justify their actions against us. They're stealing our property, their destruction of our church. They're making people worship in the closet, like Jesus said, which is good, but it shouldn't be, because the police would drag them off into jail cells because they had a joint on them, or they were growing it in loving communion with their friends and sharing brotherhood and sisterhood. That's what it's all about, is the sharing. And to pass a joint is trafficking.
It's just ludicrous.
Ludicrous.
Gentlemen, we enjoy having you on. We know a lot of people. We've spoken to a lot of people who appreciate what you're doing. Keep on fighting the good fight. Brother Walter Tucker, Brother Michael Baldessaro. Thank you.
God bless you.
God bless you all. Thank you.
When we come back, we shift the discussion from illegal to legal drugs.
A doctor takes Health Canada to task for fast-tracking new pharmaceuticals. We'll talk with him next.
Neil Patrick Harris stars in How I Met Your Mother on E! Every